Like I would spiral between 1 minute feeling like, oh, I only live once, and then I'd suddenly like give myself whiplash because the next minute I'd be like crying and thinking, oh my gosh, I'm in so much debt. And I actually used to say to myself, oh, I can't ever pay this off. Like I'll have to be in debt forever. And the base rate went up and up and up. And so every month we'd get a letter saying, your mortgage is going up, your mortgage is going up. Not everyone, but I do think some people will judge you. I've definitely been judged like in the anonymous section of the comments. You should be so ashamed, how embarrassing. There's something called the debt spiral, like when you're so deep into the debt and you can't get out. I remember my car failed its MOT and was going to cost £800, and I just like cried on the phone to the mechanic because I was like, I don't have that money.
Hi, thanks for joining us. Today we're going to be having a conversation with finance content creator Megan Archer-Fox, and this topic is debt. Megan is going to talk to us about her experiences of debt and give some budgeting tips to anyone who might be struggling. We'll also be joined by Tom, who will be leading some rapid fire questions. So, Megan, thank you so much for joining us today and welcome to the Bank of England. It's great to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
So, I don't want to take the spoiler line, but for anyone listening who doesn't know your story, obviously you were in £40,000 worth of debt, which you've now paid off to nothing, which obviously, I mean, first of all, that's an amazing achievement.
Thank you.
But it'd be great if you could tell us, kind of go back to the beginning and tell us what happened.
Yeah, so right back to the beginning, when I was 18, going to university, I got my first ever student overdraft, and I was like fresh out of uni. It was £1,200 of an overdraft with no interest attached to it, so no fees. It was just, to me, it seemed like free money. Mm-hmm. And I spent all of that on like clothes, going out, drinks, didn't really...
It's expensive at uni.
Exactly, yeah. And I just thought it would be my problem, when I've got a job, that sort of thing. But it didn't really happen like that. Like when I got into my 20s, I sort of got a credit card, I got a personal loan, and I sort of got a bit used to spending and never did anything like budgeting until it just got too much. And it got to a point where it was unmanageable, and I was in a bit of a spiral by then. And yeah, so it was the £40,000 was between me and my partner, David. And we decided in June 2024 that we were going to we really need to start tackling this. And yeah, that's a very long story short, but cutting down, we then in September 2025 paid off our final ever payment and were amazingly debt free.
Wow. So, I mean, you say it kind of felt out of control. How long would you say it had been feeling out of control for? Obviously, you made a decision June 2024, but I imagine for a longer period of your life, you were feeling quite, unsettled by the fact you had this debt behind you. Would you agree?
Yes, definitely. I think since definitely all of my late 20s, I felt like I would spiral between 1 minute feeling like, oh, I only live once, who cares, I'm young, I've got no responsibilities, I don't have kids then or anything, and we lived in like a rented flat. I thought it's fine. And then I'd suddenly give myself whiplash because the next minute I'd be like crying and thinking, oh my gosh, I'm in so much debt, and it was really troubling me. So I think definitely from like mid-20s onwards, and we started paying it when I was about 31 or 2. So yeah, so I had quite a few years of really not really knowing what to do about it.
So tell us about paying it off then. I mean, that is a huge amount of money, even though obviously it's between both of you, that's a huge amount to pay off. So how did you, where did you even start with this sort of money?
I think it's funny you say that, because I think that's what had troubled me for so long, like not ever knowing where or how to start. I actually used to say to myself, oh, I can't ever pay this off. Like I'll have to be in debt forever. It's silly now, but well, it's not silly, but it makes me feel sad now, because I think that's such a sad way of thinking, that I was trapped in this debt forever. But when we actually just sat down, both of us, and started looking at it and opened our accounts, opened the statements, and properly took our heads out of the sand and looked at it, then we were like, oh, okay, maybe we could if we did this and if we did that. And we started making very, very small changes. So it wasn't like a huge thing we jumped into. It was like, right, let's just actually start and just begin and just try and see how we get on. And then as the ball started rolling and we saw the debt going down, for once it wasn't going up, it was actually either stopping or going down, then it gave us that motivation to do other things and keep going.
And do you have any examples of these small changes you make? Because I think you're right, it must feel very overwhelming for a lot of people when they're in debt. So is there anything small or manageable that you would advise that lots of people could do, in your opinion?
So how we started So definitely just sort of looking, because I was definitely the type of person who was like hiding from the bank statements, and I was setting everything on minimum and just leaving it. Whereas when I actually started looking and adding it up, like to the penny, then the number was like staring me in the face, because like, I had £22,502 and David had £16,888. Numbers like that are ingrained in my brain
I
now.
bet.
And, so it was just shy of £40,000 together. So once we
Yeah.
were staring that number in the face, we were like, okay, wow, like that's got to go.
Yeah, gosh.
And then it was things like just writing down what we were spending, like budgeting a little bit, but just not extremely, just like writing simple figures down on sheets, trying to cut back so it was quite a slow start because we had such little money left, but yeah, it was just trying, I think, trying new things.
And how did you prioritise? Because obviously you have young children, they're expensive for a start, but I'm sure there's lots of things you kind of wanted to do with them or have wanted to do with them growing up that are expensive, and yet you're wanting to pay off this money, and then you also want to save a little bit, and it must have been really tricky to kind of manage your money in that sense and decide what is most important for you and things that you're not prepared to sacrifice.
Yeah, it was tricky because when we were when we were in a lot of debt and sort of a little bit in denial about it, that's when we had our children, and we would just carry on spending like normal. So even when I was on maternity leave and had like no money with maternity pay, we still didn't really like learn to budget or cut back. I think we were worried, but we weren't really like addressing it. So when we started paying off the debt, even with the children, I think we were lucky in a way that they were quite young, so like they don't notice when you sort of stop buying them big presents and things. But even for like days out, we still wanted to do that because it's in our heads. Initially, we were going to take 3 years to pay off this debt, so we thought we didn't want to just stop having any sort of fun. So it became, instead of like cutting everything out and having no fun, it was like trying to do things just differently. Like I was the sort of person who would, like, if I went to the aquarium, I'd just go to the aquarium, buy tickets on the door, go in. Whereas now, and when I was paying off the debt, I'm now like search like offers and like, you know, so sometimes there's like half price offers to go on the bus, for example. So I would do that, and that sort of thing that I'd never done before.
That's really
So it's just
cool.
trying to do things a bit like simpler like that.
Yeah, I didn't know they did things like a
Yeah, there's so much you can find online, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So as this is the Bank of England's video we've got today, I think it'd be interesting to talk about how the Bank of England's work has an impact on individuals' finances, particularly in the context of debt. So was this something you'd ever considered when you were paying off debt, or was it not on your radar?
Never for like my credit cards, like ever. Like I never really thought about that. The only time I ever thought of the Bank of England was when, with the base rate going up. I'm going to pretend I know what I'm talking about now, but with the base rate going up, we had a tracker mortgage at one point, and that was in 2022. And we were advised by a broker that it would be a good time to get one, but no one could have known that it just was the worst time to get one. And the base rate went up and up and up. And so every month we'd get a letter saying, your mortgage is going up, your mortgage is going up. And it's like 0.%, but I think it started at like £900 per month mortgage payments, and then it ended at like 1,300 or 400. So it was a big change. So that's the only time I ever, because like before then I would never have thought, oh no, the base rate's going up.
So if people are struggling with these changes, if someone's in a similar position to you and their credit card's going up and their mortgage payments are going up, that must be, you know, quite an overwhelming feeling. And I guess you experienced that. So what would you, from your perspective and from when you were managing increasing mortgage payments, how did you manage that? Did you pay less in other areas? Did you cut back on things? Did you budget? What did you do?
So when we were actually in debt and not doing anything and just sort of struggling, head above water, I would just get the letter, freak out a little bit, text my partner, send him like a picture of it, being like, look, it's going up again, and then I'd just be like, okay, just don't think about it. But now, well, not that we're on a tracker mortgage anymore, but now if we were and that happened, I think I would, because I'd now do like a little budget every month where I just check like all the bills coming out and like how much have we got left for X, Y, and Z and that sort of thing. So I probably would be like, right, the mortgage is going to be this month. Oh, okay, that means I don't have any room for this or something. Do you know what I mean? So it's a bit of a weird way of saying it, but I think I would try and cut back in other areas. But no, back when we were paying off debt, I would have just yeah, freaked out.
Okay, so we've talked about debt in quite a negative way so far. I think I mean, obviously it's quite a scary thing, and especially when in your case there's quite a lot of debt. But do you think debt is always a bad thing? Like, are there any examples of times you've taken on debt and actually it's been for a good cause and there's been a good reason behind it?
I mean, personally, I think like my student loan, I wouldn't be like, wow, I'm in a lot of debt, because I think I've got like £24,000 still on there.
Yeah.
But that doesn't, only in my opinion, that doesn't concern me. Like, I feel
Yeah.
like it's my plan. I think what plan am I on? Plan 1 or something? That will be wiped at some point.
Yeah.
So I don't really think about that. And then my mortgage, I suppose I don't really consider my mortgage personally bad debt. It's just there. I've got to live in a house. And only the other day I found out that like a phone contract is actually debt. I didn't really think about that. And
Yeah.
I don't have a phone contract anymore. Thankfully, paid it off. But I never consider that to be debt. And I think like everyone needs, I know it's probably a bit controversial, but everyone does need a phone. So yeah, I think it's very personal though, isn't it? It's very personal what people believe. Yeah.
Yeah, but I also think then that can be quite scary because as some quite young people can take on debt then from a young age, because as you say, a phone contract is a type of debt, and that can be quite challenging for people to get on top of their finances in that sense, because even, you know, when you are a young person, you can take on lots of like subscriptions and things like that, for example. I mean, obviously that's not debt, but if you have a phone payment coming out every month, and then you have a Netflix subscription and you have a Spotify subscription, like these things can be can add up quite quickly.
Yeah.
So what would you advise now you're kind of out of your debt journey? What would you suggest to somebody in terms of budgeting from your personal experience, and how would you suggest people kind of stay on top of their money so it doesn't get to the point where perhaps it feels out of control?
My main thing from when we were doing it is that we just, I know I've said this already, sorry, but when we didn't look at our accounts, so we were sort of losing track of what subscriptions and like payments we had. And at one point, very early on, we found out that my partner David, he was paying still for a car insurance for a car that he had scrapped 8 months ago.
Oh wow.
And the payment of like 40 odd quid per month, which is a lot really to not notice, but neither of us noticed like that it was coming out. And very luckily and amazingly, he rang them up and said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see." And they refunded him all of the payments, which was nice. But yeah, so things like that. So just looking. And sometimes some of these subscriptions are hard to cancel, aren't they? They want you to call, they want you to talk to a person and like a real human being, and it can get you a bit nervous. So so I think just being on top of, like, do you know what you actually, what's actually going out?
Yeah, it's funny, recently I've seen an advert for an app, I think, that you can download, and it tells you how many subscriptions you've got.
Cool.
And they're doing ads for it with different people in the street, and they're like, "Oh, did you know you had 2 Spotify subscriptions and 2 gym subscriptions?" And everyone's like, "No,
I would do that.
I had no idea." That's really helpful. Okay, so when it gets to the point where people do feel like they're out of control with their money, and debt is, you know, they're struggling with debt. You say the first place to start is kind of, you would suggest looking, understanding where your money is going. But then how do you create more of a budget with your money, in the sense of, we've kind of mentioned like an emergency fund. Like, can you explain like what an emergency fund is, if there are other funds or other ways you can be kind of moving your money and making it more manageable and in control?
So I know everyone does it differently, like so everyone does it in a way that suits them best. But for us, we decided, I think we've found some tips online, and what we thought, oh, okay, that sounds good. We saved like a lump sum first for emergencies, because I'd read somewhere that when you're paying off debt, if something happens, like the boiler breaks or one of our dogs needed some emergency vet treatment or something, putting it on a credit card is like super demotivating. And also, and I thought, yes, I would feel like that. Like, if I had to use a credit card while I was trying to pay it all off, I just thought, no, I wouldn't be able to do that. So I think we tried to aim for £1,000 in an emergency fund, which was quite small, but we thought it would be a bit of a buffer for us. And I think it got to about £800 before the car needed a new tyre. But then it was there, and I remember at the time being a bit annoyed, like, oh, I've got to take 300 quid out of there for the tyre. But actually, it served its purpose, and and that really, really helped. So yeah, that I really, really liked having that. And with budgeting, we just did. I was 32 before I'd even thought about making my very first budget, and we just wrote stuff down just on a spreadsheet. That was it, like our salaries and all the bills, and then what we had left, and that was it. And then we just sort of went by that, like tweaking it every month.
And where did you get your advice from, or where did you learn from? You mentioned that you read somewhere about debt and having an emergency fund. Were there other places you found resources to help you understand or help give you some tips on how to budget or pay off your debt?
Yeah, so the £1,000 one was from Dave Ramsey, who's like that big US money guru.
Yeah.
Because he gives his tips. I just really like the way he sort of, I don't agree with all of them, but I just really like the way he gives his tips. And he has that like 6 baby steps to getting out of debt.
Okay.
And one of them was like save up £1,000 emergency fund and then like aggressively go at your debt. Because I know that some people, or I've seen that some people like save quite a bit while they're paying off debt, but I just wanted like that debt just gone. I felt like it had just plagued me for so long that I just wanted it out of my life. So that's what we did. And then I read I follow Martin Lewis, you know, and
of course,
as
everyone
does, and got quite a few tips from him. But also it was just really nice. I follow quite a lot of people in similar positions on like Instagram and TikTok and stuff, and just seeing them go about their journey as well is really motivating. So that really helped.
So what's your view on social media? Obviously you're on social media, you have a lot of experience of it. What's your view on how it either helps or hinders people in debt?
It's a weird mix. Like I've had to sort of just follow the people that I feel like motivate and inspire me, and then like unfollow the ones that I feel make me feel negative or make me feel like I'm missing out or some way. Do you know what I mean? Like
Absolutely.
I suppose around Christmas I saw a lot of people going to the real Lapland and that new sort of UK Lapland, and I was thinking like, oh, should I have taken my kids there? But I was like, no, stop. Like, I don't want to. Like, there's lots of time for that, but I do think social media is definitely like I don't know if you've seen like the whole thing about like, oh, you've only got 18 summers left with your kids, which is sort of, and so I do feel it's not very helpful in making you worry that there's not much time and that you need to have all these experiences. So I try to unfollow any sort of accounts like that.
And you said you've talked about like taking your kids to aquarium and finding things that are cheaper. Is there anything else you'd advise for parents with young children? Like it's expensive to have young children, right? And especially when they're not in school, you've got to most people will have to entertain their kids for 5-7 days a week, all day. So is there anything else you did with your kids that made you feel like you weren't restricting and you weren't stopping them from, you know, having an amazing childhood, but was much cheaper and much easier to manage when you were trying to pay off this debt?
The big thing for me was not like cutting everything. It was like, we'd still do big things, but we try and do it in a simpler way. So let's like before, when we were like in real deep debt, we would go to like the zoo, and then we'd go to McDonald's on the way back, and we'd buy toys from the gift shop, and we'd buy expensive coffees while we're there, and it would all add up and it'd be a really expensive day. Whereas now we'll still go to the zoo, but I'll try and find an offer first, or I'll like book ahead, because normally you can save 10%, can't you? We'll take coffee. I'm terrible at doing this, but sometimes we try and take coffee in a flask, but I always forget. We pack like a sandwich lunch, and if we did get McDonald's, maybe we'd just get a little treat on the way back. Like we'd still try and allow ourselves nice things, but in a different way. So even though we were still spending, so it wasn't always just free days out. Because we did go to the park a lot and feed the ducks a lot, but we also wanted to still have nice experiences as well. It's quite hard.
And do you feel there is this stigma around debt? We've talked about times that debt is not negative, but do you feel that there is still this idea that it is a negative thing? It's kind of a bit of a taboo topic.
I do think so, yeah, because I think people, not everyone, but I do think some people will judge you. I've definitely been judged like in the anonymous section of the comments, like online, like people being like, how could you get in so much debt? You should be so ashamed, how embarrassing. But I think I just try and now tell myself I'm just a human being who's just trying to get through life. And like I was 18 when I started getting in debt. And then once you're in it, there's something called the debt spiral, which I've only learned recently. And like when you're so deep into the debt and you can't get out. And we'd been spending what went from spending quite frivolously to when we were younger, like having holidays and like meals out and just loving life and living just as a two, then became going into debt more because we had kids and we had high childcare payments and high mortgage payments, and we were just buying petrol on the credit cards, like and buying nappies on the credit cards. So
That's not fun.
yeah, so that wasn't fun.
It's not
no.
fun spending.
But we were so deep in them, we just didn't know how to get out at all.
Okay, so what would your advice then, from your personal experience, what would your advice be for somebody who is in a position where they are going to take on debt they need, or they feel they need to take on debt for the first time? What would you have done differently, perhaps, if you had known what you know now about debt? What at 18 would you have done differently?
It's really tricky to say, because I feel like at 18, I don't know, I have no idea, like, because I feel like future me could have appeared and said, right, stop, and I would have been like, back off, like, I'm going to do what I want. I don't think I could have been told, but I don't know, because I feel like if you really need to go into debt, then I imagine it must be an emergency, and that there's nothing anyone can say really. But if it's like, oh, I really want to go on holiday, I really want to go, then I would. If I was telling past me, I'd definitely be like, just save for it. Like, I feel like it's more rewarding as well. Whereas I put like a $2,000 holiday on a credit card, and then it started gathering interest, and I took years to pay that off, or meshed into the rest of my debt. But yeah, so me personally, I just don't ever want to be in debt again. So I feel like I wouldn't even know what to say.
But I think that's what you're saying is exactly the point, in the sense that perhaps if people knew more about budgeting and understood budgeting more, then they may be able to not have to take on debt. I don't know whether you think, like, if you'd understood budgeting and had access to more tools and templates and lots of things that are available now to make it so easy for people to budget, maybe you would have found it easier at the start when you just took on debt instead, because you'd never budgeted your money and you never knew how. So I wonder whether maybe it's just if people understood better how to budget, that might help.
Yeah, I think especially at 18 as well, when I was living in like halls and stuff, like I don't think an emergency fund was on the top of my mind, because I suppose I imagined my parents would bail me out and that sort of thing. But like when
That's
you're
the
18,
emergency fund.
Yeah, exactly. But I definitely think if I'd learned some budgeting tips, especially when I moved into my first flat and I had my first job, and learned like how an emergency fund could help me, and that, because for years I was just living payday to payday, and I'm like, I'd have like, my car had an MOT. I remember my car failed its MOT and was going to cost £800, and I just like cried on the phone to the mechanic, because I was like, I don't have that money, and I couldn't pay him on a credit card because you can't do that with a mechanic. So I really wish that I'd picked up some tips somewhere.
Okay, so now you are debt free. What do you do to make sure you don't go back into a period of debt? Are there specific? Obviously, we talked about budgeting, but are there other ways that you kind of keep on top of your money to make sure that you don't? And how do you resist if there is an opportunity to go on holiday? Like, how do you resist if it's something you haven't budgeted or managed for?
So what we do now, because I'm determined never to go back into debt. So once we finished paying off all our debt, we were very clear with each other, me and David, that we didn't want to just go back to our old ways. It was like we were going to keep these new habits. So we wanted to carry on budgeting, and we wanted to carry on putting money aside. So we acted a little bit like we still are really, like, that we're still a little bit in debt, because to put all that money into savings instead. So, and what I've learned recently about is sinking funds. I don't know if you've ever heard of them, where I'd never heard of them before, where you just have like little pots in your bank account to put bits of money in that you might need. So I've got like a Christmas one, which is empty now, but I need to decide when it's Christmas. I've got like a birthdays one, so I've got a clothes one for my kids, I've got a holidays one, I've obviously got a bigger emergency fund now, so if there is like a birthday that I've forgotten about, which I often do, then I can dip into the fund, and I've already got the money, which is really nice. So it's not like worrying, oh, is this month's pay going to cover everything? Because some months are a lot busier than others. That's really helped, like, more than I thought. But when I was paying off debt, I didn't have any of that, because I only had a small emergency fund, and I saved a bit for Christmas. And then the rest went on debt. But now that we've fully paid it off, it's so nice to have those. They have been so helpful.
And it must feel nice when you are buying clothes. It's like, oh, can I do it? Can I not? It's like, well, it's here. I've got this money ready. It's waiting for new
And then
clothes.
I try and keep it topped up as well, which is the main thing, that I should remember to keep topping up. So every month when I'm doing like my budget, I'll look at the sinking funds and say, could I maybe put a bit more on Christmas this month, or maybe, a big birthday's coming up for so and so, I'm going to put a bit more in the birthday pot, that sort of thing. And if like if someone invited me on some cool holiday, hopefully they do, then I would make a sinking fund and be like, right, I'm going to start putting money. Like, it's our anniversary in April. It's like a big one. It's 10 years.
Congratulations.
So I've started putting a bit of money aside for us to like go away together, like for a night. So that sort
Lovely.
of thing, like just to get us prepared.
So when you get your salary, and let's say you get it in once a month, what's the first things you sit down and do? Is it straight to the pots? Do you kind of have a look at any other things?
Yeah, another thing I learned, which I really like, because it's just easy to remember, is pay yourself first. So I now try and pay myself first. So I put some money into like my longer term pots, like a bit in the emergency fund to try and keep that at like the same level all the time.
Yeah.
I'd like top up any pots that I feel like I need, and then obviously make sure like all the bill money is in my main account, so that's where the bills come out, and then I'll transfer like some spending money for the month to like our joint account, that sort of thing. And yeah, honestly, I sound like I know what I'm talking about, but I feel like it's just
Sounds like you do.
I don't feel like I do, but that this is just wild in comparison to what I used to do, which was like my money would go in, hopefully the bills would all come out. Sometimes they wouldn't. I'd get messages being like, we've cancelled your subscription if you haven't paid. And I was like, oh gosh. But yeah, so it's worlds away from what it used to be.
So now we've had some longer questions. Let's have a chat with Tom with some quick questions.
Hi Megan, it's a pleasure to have you with us today. I'm Tom, the designated quizmaster. I've got some rapid fire questions for you. Are you ready?
I'm ready. I'm more than ready.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Brilliant. Let's get started. True or false? All loans require the borrower to provide a guarantee.
False?
Correct. True or false? Taking out a student loan with Student Finance England impacts your credit score.
False.
Correct. If eligible, the Debt Respite Scheme can offer temporary protection from debt collection for up to how long? 30 days, 60 days, or 90 days?
60 days?
Correct.
This can't be happening.
What does APR stand for?
I thought about this on the train. Annual percentage rate?
Correct.
Oh, nice. I didn't Google.
Yeah, did someone share these notes? True or false? Compound interest is interest on interest.
True.
Correct. A loan that requires the borrower to provide a guarantee, such as their house or car, is known as a safe loan.
False?
Correct. It's a secured loan.
Oh.
True or false? Using buy now, pay later services is a type of debt.
True.
Correct. In what year did the Great Financial Crisis, otherwise known as the credit crunch, take place? Was it 1987, 2008, or 2020?
1947?
Incorrect.
Oh, no, sorry.
2008.
Oh, God.
The option was 1987, by the way.
Oh, right, sorry.
True or false? Okay. The authority that regulates consumer credit conduct and debt collection in the UK is the Financial Services Authority.
Yes, the FSA. True, the FSA, right? No.
False. It's the
Oh.
Financial Conduct Authority, the
Oh.
FCA.
Is there an FSA?
It used to exist until 2013.
Right.
Yeah,
okay.
a trick question.
Okay. It's a sneaky one.
I'm keeping the heat on here. What does the term Bank of England base rate mean?
The rate that the bank sets.
Correct. It's
Really?
the main interest rate set
Okay.
by the bank. Very well done. When price inflation is too high, otherwise known as above target, does the bank typically raise or lower the base rate of interest?
Raise?
Correct. Which committee at the Bank of England sets the base rate of interest?
The Money Policy Committee.
The Monetary Policy Committee.
Oh,
I'll
yeah.
give you it.
Okay,
There you go. Most mortgages are only allowed to be how many times larger than someone's income? Is it 4.5 times larger, 7.5 times larger, or 11.5 times larger?
Wow. I would say, what was the middle one?
7.5
I think
times.
7.5.
Incorrect. It's
Oh.
4.5 times larger.
Well, I didn't know.
In 2024, this is getting harder now.
Okay.
What proportion of UK adults had some form of credit or loan with a regulated lender? Was it 23%, 48%, or 84%?
48%.
Correct. Until what year could people in England go to jail for being in debt? Was it 1869, 1957, or 2013?
What was the first one?
1869.
Surely 1869.
Correct.
Okay.
As of the third quarter of 2025, what was the UK average household debt as a proportion of household income?
Okay.
Was it 73%, 117%, or 158%?
73%?
Incorrect. It's 117.
How's that even possible?
It's
Okay.
very
Wow,
large.
Gosh.
And the final wild card question,
Okay.
bit of Bank of England trivia for you. Until what year did all Bank of England staff get a personal Bank of England account? Was it 1966, 2016, or I'm fooling you, we still have one?
Oh, I'm hoping you still have one.
Incorrect, it was
Oh.
2016. And a fun
Okay.
fact, the sort code was 100000.
I did not know. That's cool.
Thank you very
Knowledge.
much. That was
Thank
great
you.
fun.
Thanks, Tom. That was good.
Thanks, Tom. Megan, that was great. And thank you so much for joining us today and talking to us about your experiences. It's been really great to chat to you. I think to wrap up, I would like to find out if you had one sentence or a few words of advice for somebody who is struggling with debt. What would they be?
So I've thought about this, but it was the first thing that popped into my head, which is just start. Because a lot of people like pop into my DMs all the time saying like, how did you even start? What should I even do first? And I think it sounds really simple and like a non-message, but it is good because you just start. You just have to like open your account, look at your bank statements, look at everything, and like take your head out of the sand, because that's what stopped me for so long. Because then you actually start thinking, oh, maybe I could do this. Maybe I'm not going to be trapped forever. And you start getting a bit of hope, and then it all sort of rolls from there. Because I think thinking about it too much at the start is too overwhelming. Well, it was for me anyway. Sorry, that was quite a long answer.
No,
But
that's
just start.
absolutely
Just start.
perfect.
Just start. That's
That
it.
makes complete sense. Thank you so much, and thank you for joining us
Oh,
today.
thanks
It's
for
been
having me.
great to chat to you.
Thank you.